Welcome back to CTN. I'm your host, Robert Van Sluten. This episode, we're going to finish our discussion of keyboards. You may remember this inheritance hierarchy from the UI kit episode. A UI control inherits from a UI view. That means that a control has all the characteristics of a UI view. So anything a view can do, a control can also do. I'm going to also mention that a UI view is also a UI responder. Now you can just forget about that until we get to right at the end of the episode. This notion that the polymorphism that something like a control can behave like a view is very important in a lot of aspects of setting things up in Xcode, because for instance, if you have a custom class that you've implemented, you can drag a base class into the storyboard from the library, and then you can go ahead and change its type to the subclass that you implemented. Let's go over to Xcode and take a look at the keyboards app again. We're back in the keyboards application, and I went ahead and added a property to reference the text field. I'm going to select the background view, and I'm going to go over to the identity inspector, and in the drop down for the class, I'm going to choose this thing to scroll. Control. I want to make it a UI control, which we discussed previously. Go over to the background view, and I'm going to control drag to create an action. And I'm going to call this touch. The type is a UI control now. And the event I'm looking for is touchdown. Go ahead and create the action. Now when the background view gets touched, this action will get invoked. And I'm going to paste in a piece of code here. And what the piece of code does, a little bit of housekeeping, is it calls the text field, sends a message to it, resign first responder. The text field is a property, so it's self.textfield. Go ahead and run this. Bring up my keyboard, touch the background view, keyboard disappears. One more thing to mention in the next slide, and then we'll end the episode. There is another way to achieve what we just did. It turns out that a view is a responder, and there's something known as a responder hierarchy. So touch is actually our received by views. And in actuality, if the view is tied to a view controller, the event is passed over to the view controller. You can write code to handle the touch. It's a more low-level way of doing it, and what I just said will become clearer when we actually talk about how touches are handled and gestures and so on. I think the method we just used is much cleaner and much more understandable. I just want to mention there is another way, and it's the way that comes up in a lot of the documentation that's out there, and we'll discuss it later on when we have more background information. Let's close out. Okay, I'd like to mention that this application is available on the website, cocotouchnetcast.com. You can also send feedback, positive or negative, via email with the link that's on that welcome page. I also like to note that this is a new incarnation of Cocoa Touch Netcast. There was material that I did 4 years ago. Things were very different back then. That material is no longer available. There was much older version of Xcode and much earlier version of iOS. However, there still are artifacts around the web. If you search around, there's old pointers to stuff. But this is all new material, and feedback is welcome. Thanks for watching.